and then they see this other person who speaks really well Italian, but then they're like confused because I don't look like them. So this is what people are curious about, because I never felt like I was Bengali enough. I never felt like I was Italian enough. And no matter where I was, whether I was with my Bengali community or Italian community, I always felt like I was not fitting in any of those communities.
Hi there, welcome back to one more episode of Diversilingua. Today we are going to talk about how women can empower themselves with the help of languages. And to talk about that, we have Urmi Hossain, a Bengali Italian who lives in Canada that can speak 4.5 languages. Welcome to the show, Urmi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, before we dive in, I will ask you to follow Diversilingua on the social media and like this show or leave a comment, because this is the best way to empower our show and to share our idea to other people. So do it. You will help you us a lot. So coming back to our beloved guest, Urmi, can you briefly talk about yourself and what do you do? Beforehand, I'd like to know if I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, it's correct. It's Urmi,
Mhm.
and I live in Montreal. I live in Canada. I am originally from Italy. I was born and raised in Italy, and my origins are from Bangladesh. Both of my parents are Bengali. And I work in the financial sector here in Montreal. I am someone who has many passions. I am a self-published author, blogger, YouTuber, speaker, mentor, and I consider myself a polyglot. I do speak 4.5 languages, the 0.5 being Spanish, which is something that I've been working on, and now I'm actively working on improving my Spanish. And the other language that I speak are English, Bengali, Italian, and French.
All right, nice. So you've already explained why you described yourself as speaking 4.5 languages.
Yes, exactly.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for choosing our show as a platform to share your ideas, because you started a conversation with us. You invited yourself to the show, and that's great for us. We appreciate that you took the initiative to reach out to us with the suggestion of being interviewed. Now, can you explain to our audience why do you consider yourself as a Bengali Italian?
Yes, well, I already mentioned it at the beginning. I consider myself Italian by birth and Bengali by blood, and I embrace the two cultures equally. I did struggle a little bit when I was growing up in Italy in finding, let's say, fitting a box, because I never felt like I was Bengali enough. I never felt like I was Italian enough. And no matter where I was, whether I was with my Bengali community or Italian community, I always felt like I was not fitting in any of those communities. And then after I moved to Canada, I felt like I learned a little bit about myself. I explored myself. I tried to understand who I am from a cultural point of view. And because I love both the Bengali and the Italian culture, I actually embrace them equally. And I noticed that, I love, eating Italian food. I love speaking in Italian, but at the same time, I also love the cultures of my parents, so the Bengali culture, because I do eat Bengali food. I love wearing Bengali clothes, so that's why I embrace both of them equally, and it's something that I truly care for, because I feel like it shows who I am as a person, and I feel like I can bring another perspective, which is the perspective of the Italian and the Bengali together.
Interesting. I have a question regarding this. What do people are the most curious about when they talk with you about your culture, the country that you came, like Italy and the country of your parents? What
Um,
do you people usually ask you?
Actually, it's usually the question that I'm pretty much asked is where I'm from, because basically, I'm going to give you a good example. So when I go and buy coffee in my Italian place, like in Montreal, like I go to some coffee places and I know that they're Italian, I start speaking in Italian. And then people, like the baristas, they look at me surprised, being like, "Oh my gosh, you speak Italian, you speak really well Italian." And then they start asking you, "Oh, where are you from? How come you speak Italian so well?" And this is where people like are in a way confused, because they don't expect me to speak Italian, because I think they have a different image of what an Italian person look like. And that's where like I start telling them, "Oh yeah, I was born in Italy, I went to school in Italy," and things like that. So people are always very much curious to know how I'm able to speak Italian so well, because these people that I'm speaking with, they are Italian by blood, but they cannot speak Italian so well because they learn Italian through their parents. And then they see this other person who speaks really well Italian, but then they're like confused because I don't look like them. So this is what people are curious about.
Mm-hmm. And how about Bengali, the Bengali culture? What
Um,
people
so
are usually curious about?
You know what? For the Bengali culture, usually, so this is a question that I'm actually usually asked by the Bengali community is, "Oh, you're born in Italy? How come?" And then they are always curious to know how I managed to be in Italy, how I was like born in Italy and things like that. So I always have to tell them a little bit about my story of like how my parents moved from Bangladesh after they got married and then moved to Italy. So this is what Bengali people are curious about. Like they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're like, but in Italy is such a nice country, you know how to speak Italian, you know how to like cook Italian." So this is what people are curious about usually.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, because I think that now there are some stereotypes that
Hmm.
people have in their minds about
Yeah.
the countries. Like for example, in Brazil, because currently I'm not living in Brazil anymore. And I went there to when I go there to visit my parents, my
Hmm.
relatives, usually people think that things in Europe they are perfect, that people don't have problem here, but it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
When did you first develop an interest in learning other languages? Can you share your experience of
Um,
learning your first language and what that process was like for you?
Yes. So my very first language was Bengali, and that's because it was the language spoken at home. So my parents taught me how to speak Bengali. And then as soon as I started to go to school, that's when I basically learned how to speak Italian. And I brought Italian at home. So I would speak Italian with my sister, and I still do. So I always tell people like, yes, Bengali is my mother tongue, but Italian is my adopted mother tongue, because I would constantly use it to speak with my sister, my cousins, and so forth. And then when I started to go to school in Italy, how it works is that, of course, they have to teach you a second language, which is English. And then I did a special program where I also learned how to speak French and also German. Now, what happened is I knew how to speak German properly, and then I lost it completely because I did not speak it long enough. I studied for 3 years, and then after that I was like, I'm not using it, I don't need it, so I completely lost it. And it's a bit of a pity, because I also had like a certificate that was saying that I could speak German and so forth, and I kind of feel a little bit sad about that I lost it. And then when I went to university, I also had a very big interest for Spanish. And this is something that, like, I'm always very curious about the Spanish culture. I love everything about, the Spain and also like other countries like in Latin Americas. And that's how I developed my interest for Spanish. And for Spanish, I took like 3 courses, and I knew how to like speak, give presentation, be able to read, be able to write. And what happened is, after I finished university, I told myself I don't want to lose Spanish the way I lost German. And so what happened is I started to listen to podcasts. I started to like watch stuff on YouTube. And so that's how I keep it alive. And now I also take some conversations with like native Spanish speakers to improve my speaking, because I feel like it's a little bit rusty. I don't have someone to speak with. And now, because I live in Montreal, I need to use both English and French because it's a bilingual city. And on a regular basis, I also speak Italian and Bengali.
How was for you to learn a different language, besides Italian and Bengali? Because as you already was born in a multilingual environment, I must say, maybe it would be a little bit easier than for someone who was born in a monolingual environment. So
Yeah.
how was for you? It was like it's another language. I will learn it because. Or did you face any fear of not having of not learning properly English, for example?
No, I never had any particular fears. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a choice that I made that I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
learn languages. So it was a conscious decision. I learned English also like at school, but I also lived in UK for a year, so that has helped when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So English, it was definitely something that like it's mandatory that everyone knows how to speak in English in Italy in the school curriculum. So for me, that was pretty. It was a natural process. I was very much open to it. And I would also watch like American TV shows back in the days on MTV. And so I would like practice my English, my listening skills by watching those things. And definitely the fact that I know Italian does help with French and Spanish. And one thing that was something that made me a little bit aware was that I basically studied my whole life in Italian. And then when I moved to Canada, I did my university in English. And now I work in French. So it made me aware
Mm-hmm.
that I'm basically using or used to languages that are not my native languages. So that's something that made me aware a little bit as I started to work, because now like in the environment that I work, I have to use both English and French, which are my third and fourth language.
Mm-hmm. And is it easier for you to switch from one language to another?
You know what? Is it easy? I would say that when I go on vacation and I go to a country that doesn't speak neither English nor French, that's when when I come back, that's when I struggle to do the switch, because I feel like for instance, I went to Italy, and when I came back, all I was doing was just thinking in Italian, saying things in Italian, and that was a little bit of struggle because I had to get used to it. But it just takes a couple of days, and then you go back to the routine.
And now, if you have to give 3 tips for someone who are listening to our show and want to become fluent in other language, what would they be? Three
So
tips.
3 tips. I can tell you the ones that were most effective for me, but I also had a certain level of the language that I was learning. So I would definitely say that you need to definitely find a language partner. So find a friend to be able to have conversation in the language that you're learning, because I feel like you can know the grammar, you can know how to read, you can know how to write, but then I feel like when it comes to speaking, it's always a little bit more challenging. And I think it's always good idea to find a partner, a friend who you can speak in the language that you're learning. So maybe you can do like an hour conversation with this friend, you can go out for lunch and just speak in that language. So that's my first tip. The second tip is to be able to write, because I feel like writing and speaking are connected to each other. I feel like the more you write, the more it's going to be easier for you when it comes to speaking. And when you're writing, you're like, if you do not know a certain word, you are able to basically search for it, and then you start writing it. And I think writing, it helps a lot, especially because if you're learning certain languages like Spanish or even, I don't know, French, you need to know where the accent goes. And so that's important as well. The writing is important. And the third thing is listening to podcasts. I do think that there are so many free resources out there, and especially podcasts. I think there are great resources to learn a language, because they are an effortless way to listen to something. Like you can go for a walk, you can, I don't know, take the train, the metro, the bus, whatever, and you can listen to like a very short episode of a podcast. And I think it's a good way to practice your active listening skills. So those would be my 3 tips for anyone who's learning a language.
Awesome. Yeah, the last one I do a lot when I go to the gym. Usually, when I'm doing my exercise, I'm listening to some podcasts in French or English, the language that I train myself the most.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So now I noticed that you have written a book. Could you tell us what it is about and how the writing process was for you?
Yes, my book is called Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. And basically, my book is about my life in Italy. And I talk about my life from a perspective of a South Asian woman. And I talk about what it felt like being a third culture kid, like how it was for me to be raised in Italy, but at the same time growing in a South Asian household. And so I talk about my, you know, childhood over there, what it felt like, being around Italian friends, what it felt like, going to an Italian school that was strictly Catholic, whereas I belong to a different religion. So I make a comparison and contrast of the two cultures, both Italian and Bengali. And the writing process was pretty easy because I read a book called How to Write a Book in 30 Days, which was suggested to me by a friend. And I went on vacation and then I started to read that book. And then when I came back from vacation, I was like, okay, I'm going to start writing my book. And I had the ideas pretty clear because it's just my life and how it is to be, like it was just me sharing my thoughts. And then I wrote it in 30 days. I did have the draft ready like in 30 days. And then I found basically a freelancer who helped me with the editing, formatting, cover page. And that was done, it was released 2 weeks after, and I self-published it on Amazon.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think I will read this book that you mentioned, and I will try to read your book as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have intention to write a book. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know on which topic it would be, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome that you have already reached this in
Mm.
your life.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you say that you're a woman uh, who, who wears many hats.
Yeah.
I think I've already heard that something like this before in a Toastmaster session
Yes.
because I'm a member of a Toastmaster club,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna ask you this: Are you a member of a Toastmasters clubs?
I am. I
How
am.
being a member of a Toastmasters club can help you in your language journey?
Um, I would say that definitely I am a member of the Toastmasters Club, and it has helped me to be more eloquent in the way I speak, and also to have a better communication skill, which is important when you're learning a language. And at Toastmasters, definitely you're working on your public speaking skills, critical thinking skills, being able to give feedback, constructive feedback. But I think there's one thing that people do not realize is that we have the role of the grammarian, and the grammarian's job is to introduce the word of the day and also to pay attention to your filler words, to any particular mistakes that you make. And the beauty of this role is that because the grammar introduces the word of the day, you are enriching your vocabulary. So in that sense, I think it's a good opportunity to basically become better in English. And the thing is, we have a lot of members that join Toastmasters because they want to improve their English. And I think it's a good way to improve your English, because not only you're working on your English, but I think you're also like working on your public speaking skill, leadership skills. And so you get a lot of benefits from joining a Toastmaster club.
Right, and can you describe a little bit what is a Toastmasters club? Because maybe some of our listeners cannot understand Toastmasters. It's a club that people will toast, and then what is that about?
Well, we do a little bit of toast if you think
Yeah.
about it. Yes, it's a nonprofit organization that was founded by Rob Smedley. And basically what this club does is that its intent is to help its members to become better speakers. And it has been around for 100 years. And its job is really to help you to be a better communicator, better leader, better speaker. Every country has a Toastmaster club. Every city has a Toastmaster club, and within the city, every single area is supposed to have a Toastmasters club. Usually the meetings are held once a week, or maybe like bi-weekly, or maybe, I don't know. It depends on the frequency of the club. And usually the meetings are an hour long or 2 hours long. And there are people that basically join the club for different reasons. The meetings are structured, so every single person has a particular role. You have the Toastmasters role, you have a prepared speech, you have the table topic session, which consists on improving your impromptu speeches, and then you have the most important part of the meeting, which is the evaluation. So every time that someone is speaking, you're getting a feedback, because it's a peer-to-peer type of club. So you learn from doing and you learn from observing. And Toastmasters, it's a great community of people. I think it's a good to be a part of a Toastmasters club, because you're a part of something. Everyone shares the same goal, and if you're good enough, you can also go and do a speech competition.
Right. Nice. So now I'd like to pass to our lingua trivia. We have a moment in our interviews that we mention some trivia related to languages. And the trivia of today is: do you know that Bengali language is not only spoken in Bangladesh, it's also spoken in the eastern part of India? So now I'd like to know if you know anything in Portuguese. Since I'm from Brazil, can you speak a little bit of Portuguese as well?
No, not yet, but I do know the word obrigada.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
And how did you find our show, by the way?
How did I find it, in the sense how did I
Diversilingua, the profile on.
I came across the profile on Instagram, and I think
Mhm.
also Instagram like gave it to me because of the algorithm, because
Oh, okay.
it shows like what my interests are, and so that's how I came across with the profile.
Nice. So I'd like to know more about the language, the relationship that language has in your life. Can you say that the languages help you to empower yourself as a woman in the things that you do?
Yeah, definitely they do. Uh, I mean, I feel empowered when I can switch around different languages. And I think it gives me a little bit of more confidence that I'm able to speak multiple languages. Also, the ability to, to use languages that I did not grow up speaking. And that's also something that I think it's been very, very empowering for me.
Nice. Here we go. And before we conclude, we always ask our guests to give a cultural recommendation to our listeners. Can you recommend a book, a movie, a TV show, or any cultural thing to our listeners? You've already recommended a book here, two books, by the way. But if you want to share anything else, this is your moment.
So, I mean, there is a YouTube channel that I follow, which is that I use it to learn, to practice my Spanish. and it's called Easy Spanish, but they also have like Easy Italian, Easy English, and things like that. That's a very nice YouTube channel because what they do is that they go around the city and then they start asking questions to people. And I like that website or that YouTube channel because I feel like you get to learn or you get to hear the authentic language, like Spanish, for instance, in this case, and you get to hear the different accents. And you see the more like natural and spontaneous way of like how a language is spoken. So I very much like that channel. I always recommend it to people to watch it because it's easy to follow. I feel like because there are some like things that are a little bit more structured. Maybe some of like podcasts or even YouTube channel, they're a little bit more structured. But I think this one is like easygoing, and I highly recommend that YouTube channel. And for books, so there is like if you're learning a language on Amazon, you can find these books which are called like short stories in Spanish, short stories in French, short stories in Italian, and they're literally like very short books, like maybe I don't know, like 20-30 pages, and these are like short stories, so you can read them in the language that you're learning. You can take notes, and then they have like a question, like a series of questions that you can answer. So I really like that book because I think it goes based on your level of like the language. Like if you're learning, let's say if you're B1, you can find B1 books. And so I think those are really, really good whenever you're learning a new language.
Okay. By the way, talking about easy Spanish, I love the channel Easy French, and also the girls have a podcast called Easy French as well. And it's kind of different because usually in the podcast they talk with themselves. The YouTube channel Easy French is managed by two girls. So in the channel they ask people questions on the streets, but on the podcast usually they talk with themselves about some topics like the Olympics, like the metro system in Paris. So, and for me, it's also pretty good if you want to improve your listening skills. Right. And if you could choose any language to speak right away, what would it be? Choose a language that you don't speak yet.
Oh, that I don't speak yet. Maybe Korean.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. When I think about these questions, usually I think about the language that are so different than the language that I speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it would be
Definitely
Korean.
Korean. Yeah, Korean's a good choice.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
already been in South Korea?
No.
Maybe someday.
Someday.
Yeah. So, Yumi, I loved our session. I loved to talk with you. I feel that you have a very positive mindset, and it seems that you love language as I do. And I hope we can keep in touch. It was a pleasure to have you in our show. And now it's your time to talk a little bit about yourself, your projects, if you want to share your contacts with our audience. Now it's your time.
Yeah, definitely. I have a YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. On the channel, I invite language coaches. I talk about public speaking. I talk about leadership. I talk about career. So there is my YouTube channel. I also have my blog called myways.ca. I have my LinkedIn profile called Urmi Hossain, and of course, my book is available on Amazon, which is called Discover Your Identity: A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle.
Awesome. So that's it for today, guys. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more cultural and language tips. Don't forget to share this show with your peers. This is the best way to help us with our project. And if you and don't mind to rate us on Spotify and don't forget to give us a thumbs up on YouTube, okay? So I hope I can see you again the next episode. Thank you, Urmi, for being here, for talk with us, and until the next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.